let's start here. Liz Cheney. Let's start with Ms. Liz Cheney. Let's play a clip. You know, she's now been ousted out as far as being the GOP chairwoman. Let's play a clip of her talking about how she will do all she can do to make sure that Trump will not get near the Oval Office. And this happened this morning with them deciding that she is not fit to be on the committee that she was on. So listen to this.
I am absolutely committed, as I said last night, as I said just now to my colleagues, that we must go forward based on truth. We cannot both embrace the big lie and embrace the Constitution. And going forward, the nation needs it. The nation needs a strong Republican Party. The nation needs a party that is based upon fundamental principles of conservatism. And I am committed and dedicated to ensuring that that's how this party goes forward, and I plan to lead the fight to do that.
Congresswoman, do you feel betrayed by today's vote?
I do not. I think that it is an indication of where the Republican Party is, and I think that the party is in a place that we've got to bring it back from, and we've got to get back to a position where we are a party that can fight for conservative principles, that can fight for substance. We cannot be dragged backward by the very dangerous lies of a former president.
All right, so Rep. Cheney, she was the chair of the House Republican Conference. She's now been removed. Let me say this, Amisha. For me, Liz Cheney is no hero. I don't see her as having some kind of great moral compass. I see her as part of the problem. It doesn't resonate with me that she finally got religion on January 6th. We saw exactly who Trump was before he was elected. Everybody said it. Every economist, every historian, they all said it. And I want to take folks back to the first impeachment of Donald Trump that Liz Cheney did not vote for in December of 2019. I just want to remind people some receipts. Listen to this.
If anyone in this chamber still believes the Democrats have proven their case, I would urge those members to ask the chairman of the Intelligence Committee, Mr. Schiff, why he failed to appear to answer questions about his report. Before members vote for impeachment, they might want to know why the author of the impeachment report will not defend it under questioning. If the House impeaches here, Madam Speaker, it will create exactly the type of risk the framers cautioned us to avoid. It will mean that divided government can imperil a democratically elected president based on unproven allegations and innuendo in the absence of direct testimony. Despite all the rhetoric you've heard today, Madam Speaker, passage of these articles of impeachment may permanently damage our republic.
May permanently damage our republic. This is just hilarious to me. Another reminder, too. She voted with Trump over 92% of the time, including his atrocious tax bill that really decimated her state of Wyoming. And again, I have tons of articles here saying that that tax bill would really benefit the richest 1% of people in Wyoming. I don't see her as Wonder Woman. I don't see her as a hero. I see her as somebody who got some heat from Trump, and she's now gotten kicked out. But where were you before? This idea of sanitizing people who had delayed reactions that hurt the republic, that hurt our democracy, that had an insurrection at the Capitol. There was blood on your hands as well, and I'm not giving her a round of applause. So what? She'll be fine. But the policy that she voted for that affected her state of Wyoming, maybe if you would have thought about the democracy in December of 2019, we might be somewhere else. So no, I see her as a Republican politician who was upheld white supremacy during Trump's time. What are your thoughts on this, Amisha?
No, I agree with you 100% here, Clay. I think that the media and a lot of Democrats, honestly, are pushing way too hard around this narrative of basically a new Liz Cheney. It's interesting to me because it seems as though she got baptized after January 6th and came back an entirely different person. Because when we
Right.
go through her history, when we go through those receipts like you just did, and several more, we see that this is a woman who wasn't a moderate Republican. She was a far right Republican. She was a Republican who was not here for bipartisanship. She was a Republican who voted in lockstep with a lot of the policies that came out of or were influenced by the Heritage Foundation, by organizations like ALEC. She was someone who was not friendly towards immigrants or minorities in general. She was someone who did not want to see civil rights legislation. She was someone who walked in lockstep with Donald Trump, literally up until January 6th. It's very interesting to me that we see this from her now because she's trying to basically change the narrative around herself. I think part of that is because she recognizes what the Republican Party seems to not, in the sense that during Donald Trump's 4 years, Republicans lost control of the House. They lost control of the Senate. They lost control of the presidency. There is no long-term wins for being a Trump Republican or being a Trumpite. And I think that for her, she's playing the long game here. This is to salvage Lynn Cheney. This has nothing to do with salvaging the Republican Party. And I think that, what we saw today with the sheer removal of her from leadership, she knew it was coming. I think anybody who was listening knew it was coming for weeks, for months at this point. But this is more so folks forgetting Lynn Cheney's not so distant past history. Again, this is a woman who has a rating with some of the most conservative organizations in the country at 98% approval. So I think that we need to go back and investigate why there is this sanitization of her history, why she is now being heralded as this winner of the right and bringing the right back to some truth era that it's supposedly supposed to be a part of. The frustration I have with this is that over and over again, people act as though the sole problem with the right and where they went wayward was with Donald Trump. When in all honesty, a lot of the things that he was pushing were things that were in conversation with right-wing conservatives for a very long time. What he did during his 4 years was ratchet up a lot of the conversations they were having within their conference already. So there were problems associated with this, and there were problems with leveraging that Lynn Cheney recognized years ago and she did nothing about. What she feels is that the insurrection was basically her stop moment. This is where things got really bad. Were things not really bad when, we saw this uptick in police brutality? Were things not really bad when, as you pointed out, we saw these tax issues that only serve to benefit the ultra wealthy, which only serve to widen the gap between those who are middle class and those who are in the top 1%, which only serve to benefit these multi-million-dollar corporations that are made off the backs of low-wage workers who are basically just asking for a living wage, who are asking for healthcare, who are asking for childcare. What we're seeing now is a Liz Cheney who wants us to forget her entire history and basically come out shining and rosy. And to the Democrats, I think that they're actually helping her in reassembling this image, and it's a real problem.
It really is. And, to your point, this is such an important point that you can't stress it enough. Is while Trump is terrible, Trump is trash, Trump is ratchet, but Trump is the hate that Republicans created. Folks forget about Ronald Reagan's policies. Ronald Reagan tried to veto the 1987 Civil Rights Act. Ronald Reagan, he was pro-apartheid. I mean, Ronald Reagan, anti-black, anti-poor, Ronald Reagan wouldn't even say the word AIDS until 1987. I mean, Ronald Reagan's policies were even more destructive than Trump. His tax bill was horrendous. So folks forget this. You're absolutely right. We cannot go down this lane that it is all about Trump. Trump was able to be who he was because the Republicans are who they are. That's why it all works together. It annoys me. And so when I see some Democrats giving her a round of applause, so what? Let's not go to her daddy when he was VP. Let's not even go there, right? So it's really frustrating to me. The one thing I will say is Republicans, they play that game. They got her out. She's still, of course, a rep, but as far as they shifted her power, I kind of wish we were that gangster. I wish we could find a way to shift Joe Manchin's power. I wish we could find a way. We can't, kick him out as far as being a senator, but find a way to shift Kristen Sinema's power. If you're not in line with their conservative, anti-poor, anti-black, anti-human policies, then you're out. But on our end, it's this whole big tent theory. And if you challenge our, pro pro middle class, at least attempting to be, then you could stay in and create all this chaos. So you're so right. Folks have this revisionist history that is so toxic. That's how propaganda gets them. That's why they're afraid of critical race theory. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
We're seeing it happen. John Boehner, for instance, he's doing this. And
Yes.
people forget how, John Boehner went against everything that President Obama was trying to do in terms of setting us back on course with not only economic development, but also minority rights and civil rights. And he pushed so staunchly against it the entire time. But now he comes out with this book where he's holding his cigar, whiskey, whatever he's doing on the front of that cover. And life is all gravy. Meanwhile, this man is making billions off of the weed industry at this point. And he's had this new awakening that things are bad in the Republican Party, and there are some really bad Republicans who were honestly making horrible decisions while he was there as well and leading them. So I feel like there is this new resurgence of Republicans who are trying to have this new awakening because Trump is a beast that it helps them to actually vilify. But at the end of the day, the Republican Party fed the Leviathan. When you create the beast, when you create an environment that allows him to flourish, you cannot then come back and act as though my hands are wiped of this, I'm sanctimonious, and now it's time to bring the Republican Party back to the mean. Because the mean for Republicans has been a disaster for Americans for generations now.
Absolutely. Your thoughts on this, y'all. Liz Cheney, she's officially out. 866-801-8255. 866-801-8255. Amisha, let me ask you this. I have a theory that, and I could be wrong, I want to know your thoughts on this. I don't think Trump is going to run in 2024. I don't think he's going to run. I think he's going to say he's going to run until the bitter end to enjoy the bit of power that he has, to keep them on their toes, to keep them terrified. But I really don't think he is going to. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. But I just think I think he's keeping that in the ether because he's a media guy. That's how you promote a project. It's coming. Oh, get ready. Highly anticipated, coming out fall of 2024. But I don't think he's actually going to do it. What are your thoughts on this? Do you think he really is going to run for president again?
There is no way on God's green earth that Donald Trump runs again. What he is doing, and I think is essentially very smart on his part, is engaging the group that he created, the one that, is not that MAGA crowd, that crowd that, is going to run in lockstep with him no matter what happens. But more importantly, he is a massive fundraiser for the Republican Party. So he's able to say these things and he's able to push out these random press releases that don't really make a lot of sense. And at the end of the day, the benefit to him is that he gets to remain in the news cycle. People are still talking about him. It feeds his ego, but it also feeds the belly of the Republican Party that does not have a namesake right now. And I think that what he's doing, he's utilizing them, they're utilizing him, but he will never run again. He is not going to be able to, one, because we're going to see prosecution for tax evasion and a whole bunch of other crimes. But in addition to that, he does not have the wherewithal to run a campaign up against what he has faced since he lost this election in 2020, that he refuses to admit that he lost fair and square. But more importantly, I think that what this former president is doing is playing the media game. He likes having his name out there in news, and as long as he's being talked about, he feels like that's a win. But he recognizes he's not going to run again. And honestly, the Republican Party recognizes he's not going to run again either. They're already looking to Governor DeSantis in Florida. They're already looking to what they could possibly do with Tim Scott. They're not
just
looking
ready
at
to say that. Yes,
they're not looking at Donald Trump.
Yes. Oh no. I know folks have, Clay, you're crazy. That's not going to happen. Y'all, the black man upholding white supremacy, he can go very far.
That's a winning ticket.
That's a winning ticket. Get him a nice conservative white male running mate. Y'all, I'm telling you that is the scary thing. I totally agree with you. He's playing the media game. That's the game he really can win. And he's keeping them on their toes. We'll see. Let's go to a call here with Amisha Cross. We're talking about Liz Cheney being ousted and us not really, not forgetting her history. Let's remember her history. Voting record. Let's go to, where are we? Let's rock it to Rob from Michigan. First time caller.
Hey, Clay.
What's up, Rob?
Hey, Clay, how are you, man?
Doing good.
Love your show.
Thank you.
I think we're missing it when talking about Liz Cheney. I'm not a Cheney fan, care less about Liz Cheney or her dad.
Mhm.
But right now, my enemy is my friend, and I think it's about democracy. And I mean, I don't care what she's talking about right now, as long as she's talking against my enemy, who's Donald Trump. I think we just need to stop, give her a break right now to get what we need to get.
Give her a break? What do you mean,
Like,
give her a break?
I mean, we know what she did. We know what she's about.
Hmm.
I just want, right now, my thing is what we need to do is do the best we can to save our democracy. And she's on board with that.
Is she though? You think she's on board with that? I mean, I know she had her little monologue, but is she really on board? I mean, again, voted with Trump 90% of the time. She is deeply conservative. Do you really think she's on board with saving our democracy, or is it making the democracy much more conservative, much more white evangelical, much more Republican in her eyes? Do you really feel like she's on board?
I think so. I can't say that she's not bored. I mean, I never thought about it in that way. I just think now.
I think Amisha may have thought about it in that way. Amisha, do you think that Liz Cheney has she proved, is she ready to say I am on board for all the people in this democracy? What do you think?
Absolutely not. I think of Liz Cheney in the same way that I do Mitch McConnell. When we saw after the insurrection, we saw Mitch McConnell get up and talk about all of the wrongdoings of Donald Trump and the fact that he felt that Donald Trump should have been impeached the second time, but then again pushed it aside and said, well, I'm going to let states prosecute him and see what happens there. I think that there are Republicans who know the shuck and jive and the craziness that Donald Trump brought long before the insurrection. However, they're still pushing their own policies and they don't really care about democracy writ large, because that would mean that they would have to care about civil rights. That would mean that they would have to care about Black and brown people. That would mean that they would have to face the policies that they've created that have created this massive infrastructure, this broken infrastructure, but also a shrinking middle class, a class that is consistently downtrodden, and the equity issues that are associated with that. That would mean that they would have to face the monster that they are. And I don't think that Liz Cheney is willing to do that. Her entire historical record of voting and what she has supported has shown that she is not. And her just coming out now and speaking against the insurrection does not change that, because every single thing that she has supported, the things that I look at people's record. I don't look at their rhetoric. And I think that her record is proof positive of who she is and where she stands. And it is not for democracy, and it is not for progress, and it is not for equal rights. This is a woman who has built her career off of subjugating people. And that doesn't change because she's upset about the way that the Republican Party is seen globally because of the insurrection. That's just where we are. And Liz Cheney cannot change history. And let's remember, this is not a past Liz Cheney history. When we say history, we mean just a month ago in terms of her votes. Liz Cheney is not somebody who we can depend on to move our democracy forward, or somebody who actually believes in democracy or our Constitution as it relates to protecting minority rights. This is not someone who cares about anything other than the wealthy 1% and continuing to provide them tax breaks. This is not someone who cares about police reform. This is not someone who cares about making sure that all of our nation's kids receive equal opportunity in education. This is not someone who cares about the housing inequities. This is not someone who cares about or even voted in support of ensuring that everyone has equitable healthcare access. Let's not reframe Liz Cheney based on the fact that she does not like the smoke that came from the insurrection.
And let's remind people the minimum wage in Wyoming is $7.25, which is the federal minimum wage in her state. And she is against raising the minimum wage for her own people. $7.25. Can you imagine? That's horrific. So yeah, I don't think she's on board with anything except for herself.